Hey, willkommen à Taylor's trick-taking table. Ich bin ein Berliner. Obwohl mein Nachname Deutsch ist, kann sprechen Sie Deutsch. Was? Oh, scheiße. Ich spreche dein Deutsch? Lass mich das checken. Oh, okay. Whew. That's better. Sorry about that. Oh, we don't need the subtitles. Yeah, we're good. Thanks. Today, we'll be looking at Ebbes. It's a game by Klaus Geiss. The hook to Ebbes is every suit means something, but you don't quite know what at the start of the game, and you kind of parse out what each suit means as you play. Really interesting concept. Let's go to the table and I'll show you how to play. The deck in Ebbes always has 5 suits. Depending on player count, it will have 1 through 6 at 3, add 7 and 8 at 4, and then 9 and 10 at 5. Here we have a game set up for 3 players. So in Ebbes, you deal out the deck equally to each player, so there's no card set aside. Additionally, each player will get a wooden disc to track their score. This is the scoreboard. This is also what keeps track of what suit means what throughout the game. Over here, we have the suit designation cards. These will slide down and denote what means what throughout the game. In addition, at the start of the round, you will take the number designation cards, and a game of Ebbes is played over 5 rounds, no matter the player count. So as you can see here, we have 1 through 5. So you would shuffle this at the start of a round and reveal what the number is for the round. What the number means is it is a trigger that actually starts deciding what certain things mean throughout the game. So let's say it's the start player of the mouse here. So the mouse would look at their hand and they see they have a 5. So let's say they really wanted that 5 to be played because the first time a 5 is played, that suit will actually slide down here and take the leftmost spot. So in this case, it was trump. So now green for the rest of this hand is trump. So just like a normal trick taker, the sunflower here has to follow suit. So say they play this 3, and then the great ball plays this 4. So highest lead, if there are no trump wins, but highest trump wins, so 5 goes to mouse. They would collect these points off to the side, and then they would lead the next trick. Let's say they led with this 6. So following suit, it comes to sunflower. So if sunflower were to play this 5, since this is the number designation, they slide over that suit, and now red for the rest of this hand is positive points. So anyone who captures a red into their pile, let's say, since great ball didn't have a red, they did have a red. So let's say great ball plays there 4 red. So the mouse captures these 3 reds, and now these are 3 positive points for the mouse at the end of the round. So let's fast forward a bit, and let's say sunflower has just led with 4. So great ball only has the 4 yellow. So when they play this, it slides down yellow suit into Ebbes. And so what Ebbes means is essentially something. And so how it works is at the very end, everyone would look at how many yellow, in this case, yellow they've captured in their score pile. Whoever has the most and whoever has the least gets 0 points, including if you got none. If you got something though, which is in the middle, you get 3 points. So I'll show how this scores at the end, but essentially you kind of want to get the middle amount of whatever suit Ebbes is in the round. So let's fast forward a bit. Let's say sunflower just played the 3 of yellow. So great ball decides to play their 5 of blue. So what that does is brings this blue down into the minus points column. So if you collect any blue this round, that's worth a minus point. Right away also, the brown will come down into the next column. What that means is whoever captures the most brown will be start player next round. So we're here at the end of the round, and the cards are splayed out to show final scoring. So trumps aren't worth anything. Then you look at positive points. So the mouse made 4 and the great ball made 2. Then you look at the Ebbes. So it looks like sunflower got 0, so they're at the bottom. And then Great Ball got 5, so they're at the top. So only the mouse gets 3 points for being in the middle and getting something. Then minus points, -2, -1, and then they get -3 over here. And then start player, since they're all tied, the tie actually goes to the person with the highest number. So Sunflower will be the start player for the next round. After you give out the points, shuffle and redeal the cards and reset the suit designation. You would take the number designation, put it to the bottom, flip to the next one. So 1 will be the new trigger. You'll play that round. You'll play all the way to 5 rounds, and whoever has the most points at the end wins. There are a couple variants that you can choose to play with in Ebbes. The first one is pretty simple. You just add more cards. So this kind of changes things up just by having that higher range in there. And the second is a pretty interesting variant. So how it works is at the start, whoever the start player of the round is, the person to their left will start kind of a draft of sorts. So you lay out all the cards you're playing with. So let's say this is a 3-player game again, and you lay out the 1 through 6 of the number designation cards. So if the mouse was the start player, the flower would be the first to draft. And what they do is they take a number and a suit combination. So let's say they really wanted to take this 5 and this red. And so now, instead of like all 3s or all 2s being the trigger, whenever the 5 red is played, that is the trigger to slide the red suit into the leftmost column. And no matter the player count, you would always draft 5. So say Great Ball drafted that, and then the mouse drafted that, and then Sunflower drafted that, and Great Ball drafted that. You would take the 1 out. And so it still works as normal. The first time a 4 yellow is played or 3 green is played, the suit would slide to the leftmost. And the player doesn't need to have it. So the player couldn't have or didn't need to have the 3 green or the 2 blue. And that's often the case. If you're the last in the draft, you probably won't have that card. But yeah, whenever it's triggered by anyone, that slides in. So it adds an interesting amount of variability to the game. So that is Ebbes. And what a delightful game. I don't think I've seen something so whimsical in a while. The suits cracked me up. There's probably a reason for this, like German folklore or whatever, but it's like grapes and castles and trees and like a basket of potatoes, and then this just super kooky looking bird for no reason, and the suit on the bird is just its eyes. The board has a spot on it, and it's you only get there if you get a ton of negative points, but it's a spot that says Dab Shadow, and in the rules it says someone who's allergic to brain power, which cracked me up. Just a little bit brutal, but very funny. It comes with a sticker and a postcard that has the designer in a candlelit, smoky room. And a nice touch. This isn't a funny touch, but I just loved that the player colors were all colors that weren't suits. So the suits are like blue and yellow and brown and stuff, and then these are black, white, gray, pink, orange. Just a nice, clever touch that when you're just teaching it, players aren't like, oh, that token doesn't relate to the suit, you know? Just like nice, clever touches that make this such a good production. And that teach is so nice. I kind of tried to do that in the overview. You can show this game to new players and with the play show how it flows. The way trump and then points are determined. It's a very intuitive game. The fact that in the original, the non-variant, you can always have those low 1 through 5, the same number trigger helps as well. It's just like, okay, 3s are important, just pay attention to 3s. It makes for a really smooth, really simple gameplay. The gameplay in Ebbes is fascinating because there's a flow to it. There's a pace of when information is revealed, when you know what suit means what, and a rhythm to taking a trick. So with the somethings where you want the middle amount, it's interesting when those come out or when you try to force those to come out and bleed those. Because whoever wins that is definitely not going to get the 3 points or highly likely probably not going to get the 3 points. just because most people fall suit, and it's just a trick that is just inherently filled with a lot of them, you know? And so whenever you see the next open slot, whether it's positive points or minus points or Ebbes or even Trump at the start, whatever you play has such a weight to it, because that could always just trigger it, you know, whether it sucks it out of someone's hand, that number. And I think that genius is the flow that it comes out on. So you learn some about Trump, which is not terribly important, but it's really important, but for like the trick taking, not necessarily the points. So you're just like, okay, that's good to know for sure. And then positive comes out, and it's like the game's afoot. And then what's interesting is as you get to the minus and nix section, those last two are the tension to see which one's minus is always palpable. I love it. And it's funny because nix is, it's kind of like whatever. Like if you're start, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm start. Like it's important in this game for sure. But when you've already taken a few of what could either be minus points or nix, that tension, whether it goes the other way and it's minus points, is brutal. But then sometimes it's just nix and you're just like, oh, it's such a relief. I love the normal way to play where you have the 1 through 5 number designation cards and you shuffle and you show. That is sometimes interesting because someone could get a lot of those and have a lot of agency, but they can always get just like sucked out when they didn't want them to. So I really like that way. But what I found is the second variant where you draft these, you know, in combinations, is super fun. I love it. Like people will draft and it's usually obvious that they've had that combination. So if they take this, like especially if, as their first draft, like a 2 and a blue, I'm pretty sure they have the 2 and the blue. But what's interesting is like later in the draft, they might just be forced to take something they don't have. Or sometimes I've seen people draft where they have like a lot of a certain color and they know if they draft that, they can force someone else to play it. It's like this like crazy level of like mind games. But it's really cool because it kind of gives everyone at the table a little bit of choice in that designation of what the suits all mean in a given round. So that is Ebbes, and what a delightful trick taker. Thank you so much for the recommendation. I think it's probably the simplest trick taker to interesting for me, like that ratio where the trick taking is very simple and it just kind of just, the only twist is really that it comes out slowly. But the fact that that leads itself to so many interesting tactical decisions and like forcing suit and like push and pull, you know, you have this like kind of like a push your luck sometimes when you don't know what the suit's going to be. And those rounds where there's just like no information for way too long. Like you don't even know what positive is. And the round's like almost over. You're just like, please, please someone play that number. It's a great game. So I'll give it the trick taking award. Yeah, of course. Yeah, this totally earns it. If you can find a copy, go for it. It's a little tough. I know this is kind of like a indie labor of love, I think. I found this at a flea market and was super surprised to see it there. But if you do ever get a chance, you should totally grab it. It's an amazing game. Thanks for watching.